了，德国局推到3个，推到4个，这边的。 的画面上吹风雨了。电子助攻就要魅力还有前4，完了，后面的 Rock 看起来没打得好。但是自己被这个视野给弹过来，又是 Alex 的一个壁咚。准备要在这一波将这波人全员冲掉。差了一个位置，又是第3个，我的天啊！然后是拿了一个 double， 开始持续的追击，现在的话要得到 triple， 被波手他换了一个治愈，多你一个治愈之后，这边点输了。红魔的一个推。 帮忙越向我把小林给推了回去。
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the PCS here for Summer Playoffs. My name is Hysterics. I'm joined by Nightstar. PCS sponsored here by CWC Bank and China Airlines. Take it to Riot, Carry Live, and Garena. The PCS League operation full production. Now, Nightstar, Game 3 didn't happen. I don't care what we took away. Game 3, in my mind, first of all, I apologize for getting so tilted, but God, that was just insane to watch how many errors after errors come through when Frank Esports in Game 1 and 2 have been so clean. We look at them now on the blue side again, Nightstar. They have been the better team, but Impunity, at least we'll say, had a good response with the draft we saw. Now going back into Big Ban with the aggression from the Rumble mid, the Renekton top side. Impunity played the early game a hell of a lot better, and it led them to success.
Yeah, and we're starting to see a couple of cracks in the Frank Esports draft phase, right? And that's the fact that they don't want to play against Poppy. They don't want to play against Yumi. And, well, the Tom Kench makes some sense. But the fact that you are forced to ban out Yumi and Poppy on both sides is definitely problematic, just not in this series, but moving forward in playoffs.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many picks. I just want to, got tangented by the fact that we have double 80 carry ban towards Frank Esports, but Zeri, you know what? Zeri's open. You just watched it clap against you, and okay, I guess Wukong is more important for Hollow. It makes sense with the performance he had, but you now give it open again to Annex when he was just allowed to play the game.
This feels like, because of the fact that the Aphelios is left available, they're willing to go towards the Aphelios Renata to try and answer back. And for the side of Impunity, they will go ahead, lock in the Zeri, and we'll actually see if that actually transpires, or perhaps, again, the Fiora is left available. They could go for Fiora as a pretty... This is not exactly the best matchup, but YSKM has done stranger things with his champion selections.
A lot better than the Camille. You know, the matchup can actually favor a lot about what the Fiora does with W. If you can get Cultameek stopped up. Let's see. Ruthless Predator, I think, is what I was looking for there. At the very least, you know, early Renekton from Impunity is a different direction, and willing to blind against YSKM is also something you should not take lightly. While Frank Esports for now are going to be looking at their bottom lane. As you said, the Aphelios is still open, Renata's still open. They can just kind of go back to what we saw in, game number 2, but changing it up, I guess, with the Nautilus.
Aphelios Nautilus adding a little bit more engage and also bit more aggression. For the side of Impunity, what do they go ahead and answer back? Okay, looks like they want to go back towards the Renekton Rumble combination.
Okay.
And it will get locked in. They don't want to get banned in that second phase, so it actually makes a lot of sense. Given how successful they were with this duo, it does mean Vi will get taken away from them in the second phase, though.
Yeah, it does. You know, a good call out on the ban. We should also see things like maybe the Xin Zhao alongside this comp as a selection. Silas, a good takeaway here is, you know, the other thing that I'm kind of worried about for Impunity, they ran this in game number 3, when they saw that Frank Esports were running the Camille top side, when they saw that, you know, it was going to be last pick for Pretender. This time around, they've shown the cards on the solo lane, which arguably in the split has been Frank Esports' bit of strength. So, you know, banning away a couple of mid laners here might not do the job, as you're giving YSKM a head start into the lane. At least the Fiora ban comes through, but I'm kind of curious as to the direction he takes here up into Jackpot this time around.
And we should expect to see a different approach come out from Pretender with his champion pick. Now that he knows, again, the Impunity composition kind of face up and should be very similar to what they ran last game anyways. I'm fully expecting the Zir or even, again, the Corki to come through here. This would be interesting. I would expect this to be a jungle Sejuani, but they're okay. The move over to Rakan. All right, this makes a lot more sense. However, this is very much a scaling bot lane coming in from Impunity, and for Frank Esports, they do have the aggressive tools to once again try and punish down in that 2v2.
But YSKM, I guess they're going to say put him on Camille duty again. Oh yeah, this would be so much better. Even though the Renekton in the lane doesn't mind it, this would be so much better. Thank you for not picking Camille into the Renekton. I honestly might have scratched my eyes out a little bit. Hey, Frank Esports, now as you said, Pretender's got options. Not the Orianna. What else do you want to see?
Yeah, again, the Zir would make sense in combination to just try and protect this Aphelios in the backline. You're not too worried about putting yourself at risk in the mid game, because even if you do go in with the Zir, you still have backup magic damage coming in from the Gwen. So even if you do kind of sacrifice yourself with your ultimate, you still have the follow-up coming in from YSKM. For Impunity, still looking at this Sejuani, and it's very possible we see Renekton mid and Rumble jungle.
Well, at the very least, let's just wait and see, because you know, a lot of the time we see Sedge jungle with melee solo lanes, right? Easy to stack the permafrost. Feels really, really easy with both mid and top, but especially top lane, as you have the chain CC there as well. So feels like that's where it's staying for the time being, as Apex rinses and repeats this Rumble in the mid lane. But as you were saying, for Frank Esports, at least this time, we have a composition that lines up nicely. This time around with the Azir, the late game scaling on this side for Frank is just superb. And I'll also say that through the lane, you're going to have a better time against the Rumble, because you can easily play the range better here. Yeah. And Azir's laning phase versus Rumble should be so much better.
It definitely should be. And the other thing is, Pretender, when he's kind of put in very static champions like the Victor, like the Orianna, while we didn't see it really play out in game number 2, he's just not as comfortable. When you target him out, he does look out of sorts and out of place. But when you give him these more mobile champions, like an Akali, like an Azir, like the Sylas, that's where he really starts to flourish. So this should be a completely different Frank Esports, and, you know, moving forward, just none of these immobile control mages.
That's right. You know, this time around, I don't care if he doesn't ult Nightstar. I don't care if he doesn't press the R button, because at least he'll be able to auto-attack during fights and feel like more use. Frank Esports last game, it was not a great game 3. It was so all over the place. And we had many kills, but it just felt like solo queue in the end. Everyone stepping out of place. So many mistakes and errors. Really hard to absorb in the end, as Frank Esports starts off with a cheeky little invade off the side, hoping Apex steps up for the Electro Harpoon. Pretender's pulling him a little bit. And we're just going to see Kerry's has flash. I would do it. Nope. But of course, he's not me. He's going to play it safe and backs away.
In the meantime, they were able to get that ward onto the red buff, and they don't have any sweepers on the side of Frank Esports. So this will be knowledge gained for the side of Impunity as they look to try and pull off the reverse sweep. Is it going to be difficult? I mean, yes, that's usually how reverse sweeps are, but it starts with one game, And you know
True.
what comes after one game, Hysterics?
Another one.
Another.
One. That's right. You know, yeah, game 5. Look, if we get a game 5 out of Impunity, you know, this composition feels like it'd be partly to thank for that. As you know, the Rumble last time around got so far ahead, there was nothing Frank Esports can do. But I can even say the same about this top lane as Jackpot takes a heavy trade. That's Gwen. I mean, he walked into the true damage, to be fair. It's not like, you know, Jackpot did something right. He's done it again. It's a level 1. And all you have to do is keep sniffing away. With Ignite and a Q, Jackpot flashes away. YSKM is going to get level 2 as well. He can press E in about a minion's time. If Jackpot stays stepped up here, YSKM will kill him.
Instead, he actually goes ahead, backs off. Maybe just waiting for the junglers to come up here to ensure a more comfortable trade.
Bottom lane, meanwhile, we get a good trade, speaking of. Dredgeline to hit it on back as Eminem is still level 1, so it's just the range of Calibrum as they'll hit 2 off that minion wave. You can see Alex now moving on in as onto Jackpot. The all-in begins again. Ignite down as junglers are going to face off as well, but remember that Frank Esports have a top laner here. Impunity not so much as he's one snip away from getting in kill threat again. YSKM steps on up. Jackpot is threatened back. And even though Alex is coming in, a ward's going to spot him out, so YSKM will have priority in this lane still.
Alex is just pulled back and forth at this rate. As Jackpot... he just keeps taking these trades!
He's Renekton. Dominus is, not Dominus, but rather Q is, walking into the true damage again. It's time to back off. But YSKM is probably not going to let him do it. He's also on a ward. YSKM sees him on the ward. He's tanking up the minion wave. He's got W available. E forward to...
Oh, it doesn't happen anymore.
Oh, missed. Ran in. Oh, my God, no. Vision goes
the 50-50.
out. And that just sucks.
You know what? I respect that. That was, you know, we call him Baby the Shy.
That's true.
That is something the Shy definitely would go for. No questions asked. And yeah, unfortunately, he takes the big L there. That stings. But at the same time, when you look at how these trades are working out for him, maybe it doesn't bite him too hard. Only time will tell.
It is a pickaxe versus an amplifying tome, so I think that will definitely not be the case because, you know, the thing about Renekton as well, even when he gets that low, when you build up Fury, when you get that passive and you get 50%, the ability to get back into some of the burst trades is huge. YSKM, as you said, still doing well, but you just look at this. Waiting for W is all he needs. Q's in. YSKM's hurt. Jackpot's back up. So Renekton, when he starts snowballing a lane, especially with a Sejuani jungler, is so painful to verse.
Alex hanging around. Just hoping YSKM advances a little bit too far forward. And able to punish his Apex also hovering that area. And I think because of Apex hovering, YSKM is playing a lot more tempered.
Yeah, look, he's also got, you know, that Reign of Anger's back up to 50% as we look towards bottom lane. 2v2 going well. Dredgeline onto the Rakan here, but Yusun's able to back off. And it continues to be Eminem favored here. Small CS gap with the wave pushing out. But Carries has been on point all series, and to be fair, you know, I think has been one of the strongest players of Frank so far, so continues to find great angles as Jackpot, speak of the devil, going to do the same, but unfortunately unable to get an enhanced W.
Hollow is here.
Oh, he was spotted. He was spotted out.
Tragic.
Yeah, rough timing. Frank Esports top laner. Jackpot can 1v2. It doesn't matter. YSKM doesn't have need to work, and Alex and Apex are here.
Yep, this is also Equalizer up and available.
Well, I think we got an Impunity early game yet again kicking off. Pretender, level 6 now, but once again, Apex is moving out of lane so much quicker. He hasn't even been punished that much in the lane.
In fact, this is Teleport coming in.
Here he comes. Impunity is still going all in. Pretender has ulti. He's going to clear out the wave for now, but Nightstar, there's no play apart from a defensive one from Frank Esports to get their top laner back where they think he belongs.
at the very least, they don't lose the EXP that's sitting up at that wave, right? Where YSCam, he wasn't able to get in range to even get the EXP for those. So Pretender, he claims it up. So it does mean Pretender's going to be fairly accelerated on the EXP department. That's really all they get out of that exchange, though, as yeah, it's still a long cooldown expended to make that play.
And remember that TP, you know, we don't care because you're still not going to expect to have it up for any play, considering I just get unleashed for 14 minutes. But Pretender not having that available, Apex, he didn't take TP anyway. It's going to be Ignite for the lane. Means that this Azir, if he gets punished again, will have his work cut out for him. I want to point out top lane lead is about 15 right now for Jackpot. As Pretender finally showing us what this Azir can do. He's got lost chapters, so the difference is nice. And yeah, for Dragon, it seems like there is priority in the lanes, even for Herald Nightstar. 30 seconds till that spawns.
And for YSCam, onto the Gwen pick. It's definitely a different situation where he can't just easily win out this lane phase. You saw him take these really nice level 1 trades, but because of that death, set very far behind where he wants to be, and Jackpot is in a very comfortable spot. He can play aggressive. He can play without jungle assistance.
Nice try. It was a good attempt at dredge line there. Annex does have ulti. Flash away from Kerry's now walking back in to re-engage for the auto attack. Eminem has his own too. And all it takes is an engage. But Hollow, second time around, he's been spotted out in the play, this time by a Warden. There'll be nothing to say of the bottom lane 2v2 any further.
And the job from Impunity on keeping track of where Hollow is has improved greatly. As 8.5 minutes into the game, Hollow hasn't gotten involved onto the map yet or gotten himself a kill. This is a slow early game, and that's exactly where Impunity want to have it, at least with how strong their lanes are right now.
74 CS the mid lane keeping track. Again, Apex doing well in the lane. It's just such good news for Impunity, who are leading by gold and now have the Herald localized gold going to Sedges. Dredge line yet again connecting. Depth charge onto Annex. Ignite down 2, and there's an ulti at melee range from Eminem. They'll be able to force out the bottom lane at the very least with the ghost burn by Annex. So that's previous though, as YSCam at the top side. We get the Ignite down. Leaderwork coming through, but Dominus in response. Good trade as a flash away from Jackpot. Means he doesn't get hit by the last bit, and Gwen always has a way.
Oh, it does look like he's trying to hang around, maybe punish YSCam just walking into him once more, which we did see work out last time. And this time,
though, thankfully.
Yeah. Alex does also have the Rift Herald. This time around, Hollow trying to hover up topside to help protect YSCam. They don't want him to fall too far behind this time, because even though YSCam still found good fights on the Camille, with how far he was set behind because of that early tower going down, all 5 plates going into Jackpot, the statement made by Jackpot, I feel like, was much greater than what the Camille was able to bring to the table.
True. I mean, every time so far in the series we've seen this for Renekton. Each time it's either been the blind from YSKM with that Camille that has been punished well, or this time around YSKM chose to take the Gwen in the matchup, and obviously a lot better. The draft feels like it is a much better response, but it's that mistake that bites him so hard. As speaking of, Alex now over the wall. A good setup for the 2v2, but Pretender is not walking towards the wave. There's pings over that wall. Frank Esports, no.
And Hollow's coming over to try and respond to it as well. And it will force Alex to back on out of there. Another thing is, for Gwen, this is 12-14 Gwen, so she still has the extra little bit of true damage in the middle of her snip,
Sure.
contrary than what is currently available, or on 12-15, which is where we see, LCK and LPL play. So Gwen still able to do a ton, stupid amounts of damage with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, the biggest change that we saw come in is the fact that All these Gwens now build for ulti. The fact that you can just press R and destroy half a fight
Just
late game.
one tap carries.
I mean, Gwen versus Zeri. Take your pick here in this game. And, you know, we did talk about Frank Esports. At the very least, Impunity are on a bit of a timer this time around. Even with the Zeri, you look at the range, you look at the scaling.
Yep.
This time, Frank Esports, if it does go to a late game fiesta, they've got a little bit more on their side in terms of tools to play with. But Impunity are trying not to let this one get there. It is a Gwen underneath turret. You're going to have to play it well. At least the CC is chained nicely. Impunity, very clean stuff as they get the dive kill.
Yep. Find the kill. Now they throw in the Rift Herald. Should be able to break this top tower. And history sort of repeats itself. It's not quite 10 minutes, which is when that tower went down the first time around. But delayed 2 minutes is not that big of a deal for Impunity, who still are playing around this top jungle a lot better now that they have the Renekton, and it makes me wonder why it took this long to just lock in the Renekton pick.
Well, I mean, you know, we talked about it at the start of the day. Pause on that. Dreadflake comes out onto Annex. Quickness is a good response. We're in AoE territory. Eminem has Gale Force and uses it well, but has to flash out with a cleanse. And now here's the burner. Frank Esports are bringing in the cavalry, but Impunity is still chasing up. In goes Pretender. An easy ulti backwards. And Pretender, thank you for pressing R in your first play of the game. That's refreshing.
And this is why we wanted to see the Zero over the Orianna, because you can do things like that. If that is Orianna, you still are reliant on the Nautilus to flash forward, to carry the ball into or on top of them. It gives them that opportunity to flash out of it, but not when you're in Azir. In that moment, as we get to see the replay on this bottom play, Hook lands, and unfortunately Eminem unable to lay out enough damage because how well Yusin is able to play out this fight, peeling for his carry. But the turnaround happens when the teleport comes in, and they just keep chasing, knowing that, hey, it's Zeri, extra movement speed, they're super low, we should be able to finish that off, and they just don't expect it.
They really don't. And look, now with 2 kills, Crown actually picked up in this game, so going the safer measure rather than Luden's. Not a full front line, so okay, respectable at the very least. You've got your mythic item, and Gale Force in the bottom side was already picked up in the play. That's what you saw used. We are getting towards first item territory as Impunity. While we're in the replay, we're able to pick up their first dragon, rather second dragon of the game. They still sit 1k gold ahead, but we did talk about it. This comp needs to snowball the hell out of the game, otherwise Frank Esports, that late game is so easy to maintain.
Yeah, and I actually really like this crown purchase coming in from Pretender because of the fact that the only long-range spells they have that's not an ultimate is just going to be the zap coming in from Annex. So that's the only thing that's going to be able to reach Pretender reliably. And that is a pretty clear big cooldown as Westcam.
They flashed for that as well. There's the
That's
equalizer, lay it on
He's
down.
immune,
Need to work in a straight line. They used everything to kill Cam and Hollow. Still sitting there might be okay. Pretender just got his first item, but it is still an Azir. Ulti connects, but it's too early, Frank Esports. You're doing what Impunity did in game 2.
Yeah, not quite the damage online here from the side of Frank Esports. Fight a little bit too soon. YSCam now gets himself that Rift Maker. You just imagine if that was the situation, he has the Mythic completed. He's just healing way more HP in that situation off his ultimates. But it's not to be. They contest a little bit foolhardily. They get punished. Impunity out to a 2.5k gold lead. This is yet another early game that Impunity actively draft for, and Frank Esports, they kind of play into it, so nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, look, for Frank, again, this is just the last 2 games have just been mind-boggling when I feel like this team had such a good handle on their macro, how they respond, and you know how their comp flourishes. Past 2 games have been all over the place, and Even after the successful TP play bot, now you give Apex a window back on in. 2-0 on this Rumble. Night Harvester picked up. The Dark Seal stacking yet again. We got 1 item for the people that count on Impunity. I feel like the game's only beginning to throw its counterpunch here. Is that Herald now in hand for Alex? And there are 2 standing turrets on the outer sides of the map.
And the 1 item spike is really, really nice for the side of Impunity. They spike super hard with top, jungle, mid. It's being super powerful at this point. And for FAK Esports, they really start coming back into it on 2 and 3 items. So trying to buy time.
Okay, Pretender's now in.
Oh, good
Direct line set up, but the equalizer. Oh, that's huge. Annex with his ulti now freestanding as well. Apex on a good hit. That ulti not hitting from Eminem, but a dredge line shuts him down. All the gold is going to Pretender, who's just sitting back and chilling while Impunity stepped too far up.
And you can see the power of the crown in that instance because he was sitting on the equalizer pretty much the entire time, and he was just non-stop autoing because with the extra resistances coming in, he doesn't actually get bursted out, and that is a big punch back coming in from FAK Esports as they look to stand tall in this mid-game, stabilize, and wait for their next items to come through, where slowly their carries will start to rise back up, especially with the mid and top differences.
We've got Nashes on the way, right? Those items that mean so much. And the fact that it's only a 1k gold lead yet again for Impunity. They saw the play, and they went too far. It's kind of feeling like game number 3. Okay, everyone throws the Hail Mary, and the other team just gets a bit of a freebie. Back and forth like a game of ping pong. And 45 seconds towards the Dragon. If we have a Nash's Azir at that point in the game, I mean, I would be very scared if Pretender's able to free hit like he was able to just then at the mid turret.
Yeah, and this is a very different game for Apex, right? He is back onto the Rumble, but then you look at some of the champions that he has to deal with, the Philios. If he has Severum up, he can lifesteal through the equalizer. Against Pretender, he has the crown, so he can stand in it. And YSCam, like, Gwen is immune. So he's just not taking damage at all in the equalizer unless Apex is in range. So there's a lot of problems arising with this Rumble pick, which shone so brightly in game number 3 as we turn into game number 4.
At least his angle's good at the moment here with Alex having his ulti available. In River, FAK Esports are still susceptible to get bunched up on.
They need to burn crown.
Onto the Dragon. Yeah, the crown needs to come through. It's a good ulti on top of him. They land. Eminem getting out with the Gale Force, though. And Pretender, you said, buys his time. Annex ain't that 3 items there yet, so in this fight, he's not doing a thing. As he runs away, it's Jackpot to focus on, who was able to kill the Azir. Pretender drops down as FAK Esports are threatened here with a 2-for-2 trade. But Jungler is alive here for Hollow. You look at Alex, he's been burnt out quite a bit as Jackpot is working in with a full Sovereign bar. That Reign of Anger is available, and now they have to walk into the Dragon Pit versus it.
Yeah, both teams actually sitting on the same roles for this fight. Because of that, they don't want to take any flips. They're just going to go ahead, recall, reset the situation. That means Pretender's going to get back into it. And coming into that fight, he had the Gnasher's Tooth bought up, and you could already see some of the work he was doing. Unfortunately, he did get caught out, but it's very hard for that situation to repeat, as I believe the Sejuani ultimate much longer cooldown to actually get this pick.
As you said, the crown does so much as a stopwatch as well, means that he took no damage.
Yeah. Like, he should be dead from that combination of spells, but because he has crown, he only takes like 25% damage, and that allows them to buy so much extra time, because then has the stopwatch on top of it. He also pulls Jackpot away. Imagine if he falls at the start of that, Jackpot is just able to mop up the fight and doesn't have to chase Pretender out on a limb. And now, cooldown's reset, ultimate's back up.
They're turning to the fight in the AoE. Kerry sacrificing his life to equalize good again, but Pretender free, hitting his last cam. Jumps on in. FAK Esports This is more like it. The front to back played well, but Annex is now moving his own game. IMP takes everything, but over the wall, was it a mistake? No, because now Jackpot can get on in. Well, Eminem still alive, but his flash now down. A double over to Annex. Zeri doing Zeri things way before she should have the liberty to do it.
Annex trying to find his own in this series. 2 games of Zeri, and it's been popping off. Now should have 2 items completed once he queues up that recall. And when we see the replay, we're going to see Pretender still have his ultimate throughout that entirety. Doesn't want to put himself at risk this time around, even with the crown available. I'm wondering maybe he lost the crown, had it procced early on in the fight. That's why he didn't want to put himself in to that situation as replay happens. They're all stuck in a choke point. This should be like the perfect situation for Frank Esports, trying to fight through the Gwen ultimate, and also with Pretender possibly just eating up that entire choke point. But you see, he's just so non-committal, and him walking away or him walking in the opposite direction leaves the rest of the team super exposed, because now you don't have that shuffle to shove them back away from your backline.
And as we saw in that last fight as well, I mean, further to the point, like Frank Esports, you know, they're at the 3rd dragon now. We're at 22 minutes and feeling very confident. But we have to remember that Eminem is still only 2 items. It's an LDR second tier for the Aphelios. We don't have that Infinity Edge. We don't have that AD threat where, for Annex, once everyone was in, he was able to chase up and clean it before he even got the Phantom Dancer. So for Impunity, getting a lot of gold off the back of that trade. 2nd dragon for them too, and being able to complete some of those core items with all the gold that was just taken. Almost a 4K gold lead here at the 23-minute mark. As Frank Esports are losing control over the map, especially this top side right now, around the Baron buff that is sitting there waiting.
And YSKM onto the Gwen pick hasn't quite had the same impact. Looks a little bit off kilter. And at the same time, this is, you know, a best of 5. And getting to game 4, this is a pretty grueling affair. Right, even though the first 2 games were pretty much speed runs, but because it was a 43-minute game in game number 3, all of a sudden the game timer, it's how mentally exhausting it is. You gotta wonder how much that affects a young player like YSKM.
Oh, I mean, you know, it's Nightstar, it's affected me, and I'm not even that young, so you have to imagine. But people are playing the game. I'm you know, I've got to apologize again. Game 3. I don't know.
Was a ride.
Tilted, but it was a ride, and even this one getting towards that point as YSKM trying to take the 1v1, but Gwen with 1.5 items versus a 2-item Renekton. Pretender, you are a hero this game, and he's making up for last game. Very nice counterpunch.
Right place, right time. Pretender secures himself another shutdown. He is a very, very rich man, has the completed Zanya, so now he can just be emboldened to go for these perhaps riskier plays, getting into the back line to try and shove back the Zeri, because you do have that stopwatch to buy extra time. The resistances will also help out considerably against Jackpot as well. So now Frank Esports maybe hitting a bit of a sweet spot here, is of course they're still waiting for that next item to come in for Eminem. Curious whether it is going to be the IE or if it's something like a BT, because if you do go BT, you can just lifesteal through the equalizer and really nullify that big cooldown itself. That could be a possibility. He hasn't really shown which direction he's going in yet, though.
Yeah, because further to your point, it feels like we do have a lot of damage coming through. Pretender is, you know, he's not Loons, he's not Leandri, so you know, he's not going to provide as much output as we would expect of a 3.5 item Azir. But Eminem still hasn't backed for that item, as you were saying. I want to point out that Pretender, he has a Blighting Jewel. So 3.5 items, as I mentioned just before, is over a 2.5 item Rumble. That is massive, and Pretender with a full item completion ahead of his opposing mid laner. In 55 seconds, I feel like this is here yet again. Going to be the talking point as we get towards that dragon that will be the fourth of the game.
Jackpot does have a ton of magic resistance stacked up. Has the Mortius, has that Chem Tank, and also the Merc Tread. So considerable amount of magic resistance against the double AP threats on the side of Frank Esports means that the next item is quite important for Eminem to actually provide a little bit of threat onto this Renekton.
Yep.
But he still has yet to back.
That's true. I mean, we've seen this series, you know, very late backs coming through. I think Pretender was a big part of that last game. Was it Eminem? Actually, yeah, it was Eminem who stayed out on the map so long. As in front of Dragon, of course, now you can't back. Frank Esports are going to be spotted on the wall. They're going up as that equalizer stops them in their tracks. Down goes Crown, and down goes a huge chunk of HP. With Apex's ulti that is 1/4 of a cooldown already. You've given over third Dragon, moving up to the Baron, and there's no way you get nearby before it goes down.
Yeah, I actually really like that ultimate used by Apex, knowing that Frank Esports wanted to pull the trigger, rotating over to the Baron buff. They certainly have the damage to burn it down with a 3.5 item Azir. Maybe not as fast as something like Leandry's, perhaps, but certainly can still do a ton of work with Nashers. And so throws out the ultimate. While it might be an important tool for them to team fight, in that instance they weren't looking to team fight. They just wanted the dragon. So burn that cooldown, stop them from going for the Baron, and you get yourself a free fire dragon, and that's going to amp up their damage and help keep this Rumble more relevant.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rumble, but mainly Annex. Zeri at the 3-item point. And we're at a game set where for Impunity, their gold lead with their Renekton Rumble, this early game solo lane comp, hasn't taken off. You know, the shutdown was given over to Pretender down in that bottom lane. We saw that Apex was caught out a couple of times, despite last game playing this Rumble to even more perfection. We rely on Zeri yet again, and dude, if Zeri wins this game, I just don't know how to feel. Like, this has been given over twice now, and it's kind of like in other regions, like, we're seeing Zeri win games. She is the silliest champion on Summoner's Rift right now, and has the ability to carry. Even though Eminem is also 3 items here, Nightstar, it will come down to the fact as Apex actually just called out. Good dredge line. Buying time as well. He has Equalizer and Flash, but will he get to use it? No. It's late, and Pretender gets the kill again. Nice pick off by Frank Esports. While Impunity are down to a 5v4 in front of the Baron buff.
Perfect timing, perfect placement for a pick. Now they are in front of the Baron buff. Eminem trying to kill that ward. The zap comes through, and Hollow takes a huge chunk.
Yeah, he needs to watch out. I mean, early smite or what? I don't know why we still doing the Baron. Dredge line is there. Ulti misses from Alex, but quickness into the back line into a Renekton AoE. It turns
Eminem's huge.
Needlework is also a pain as Annex. That flash may have just saved the game. He's stepping up. He can kill Pretender, but Eminem is an Aphelios. He was the original 200 years with a quadra kill, and even though Pretender almost dies, Eminem steps back up for Frank to finally say enough is enough.
Pretender coming back with that teleport means that they will have the HP bars to finish off this Baron buff, and Frank Esports, that might be the statement fight for them to close out this series, as Impunity still looking incredibly tough to put down at that fight. We'll see the replay, and it was a very high-risk play coming in from Frank Esports because they continued the Baron when Hollow was 400 HP.
I mean, Hollow, I guess, Alex, maybe not a bad ult, maybe Hollow just fighting it out well as, dude, in AoE areas, you gotta love a Aphelios when he's able to free hit an ult at that range.
It almost turned into a Zeri moment, though. Hysterics, we saw right there, he was just doing so much damage, but alas, couldn't run away. Didn't have one of those enchanters on top of him to put him over the top in that situation. Still puts out the most damage, and the big zero, of course, is just the fact that this play happens because Annex or Apex was caught out.
I want to say, after the play, Eminem was able to pick up a GA, so definitely a bigger 80 carry right now. It's under turret. They're looking for Jackpot, but the equalizer does actually equalize things here for Impunity. Eminem forced to back away as that's a big chunk again on top of Hollow. Dragon is up in a minute as well, and this is one that Frank Esports have to contest, Nightstar. And this time they are looking better to do so with the 3K angle. They've also got the pressure from Eminem, and Jackpot can't step up to this Aphelios, so Frank Esports will get yet another turret and have the map well and truly under their wing at the 32-minute mark.
But Hollow still has yet to recall. He's sitting at half HP. This is sort of criminal with how many times Frank Esports are just not recalling to either get HP or to buy items, and now Hollow's going to be stuck.
Can't walk through a choke against the level 16 Gwen with Void Star. Even with 2.5 items, YSKM is getting to the point where he will change the game by pressing that single button. Good poke from the 80 carry, but Hollow gets out of the front of it with his clone absorbing. Frank Esports now don't really have the health bars here, but they need to be around for Dragons. Hollow, I can't believe he didn't reset, but hey, maybe the TP works as carry. He goes in early though.
Annex
Support about to die. Over to Annex as YSKM. His angle's great, but Frank Esports are so split up. Why did they go in before YSKM was there? No reset from Hollow. Pretender has the carry from a back end, and yes, they can. But Annex Apex, as he gets over the wall, I'm honestly just sick of 3 players with the same ending of their name. Annex, Alex, Apex, they're all X's at this point. His Impunity cannot walk in, it seems. But they're going to anyway.
Oh man, I mean Annex, he's just trying to lifesteal off of Gromp. But YSKM and Pretender are so strong. Oh, that's a big zap!
He got hit. That's not good. But at least
Apex
Pretender can sit back and auto it onto Jackpot. Yeah, the equalizer could do something, but you look at Pretender. All he needs to do is poke up, but Infernal goes over. I just can't believe Hollow didn't reset. No health bars. We're at a similar point. Again, Impunity have the palm of a Game 5 now given to them like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet.
Asterix, we may just go to Game 5. And that just feels unbelievable. Carries just goes in way too soon. By the time the ultimate lands, YSKM has just gotten his TP down. And the burst of damage comes through. Again, like Hollow, if he's full HP, he gets a lot more damage down. Eminem is able to put a little bit more damage in return, and these blinking health bars, they're gone, right? They're dead instead of just blinking health bars. But it ends up costing Frank Esports the fight and the Dragon Soul, and now the extra stats are in favor of Impunity, even though they are 3k gold down.
Yeah, I mean, look, Impunity, you know, we talked a lot about scaling, as that blue buff just stolen by Alex with a cheeky Arctic Assault. But Frank Esports, I can't believe it's come to this as we get a TP towards mid. You still have a stronger Aphelios, but there's a Glacial Prison. Equalizer burnt out all to get the inner turret. But as Pretender jumps on up, he's still going to be a threat. Even with the Infernal Soul, Frank Esports are still the scaled team. But I feel like we're going to have to wait until Baron for a minute, Nightstar. Wait until that Elder Dragon comes up, because that's when the game truly could be a massive burger flip. I feel like the loser of this series should just apply for McDonald's at this point, honestly.
And right now, you can see the nerves are starting to play a factor, because the shot calling coming in from Frank Esports is really getting pretty chaotic, right? They are just tunneled in on balling up as 5 rather than try and leverage the side lanes that we talked about in games 1 and 2 that they, you know, ran away with. Now, YSKM unable to freely push out in these situations. He's struggling a little bit to figure out where he wants to go and what he actually wants to do to help set up and get his team over the line.
Speaking of, right now, with the Crown absorbing that Ultra Shock Laser, And Frank Esports have themselves a GA on this Aphelios. Impunity sitting in brush, but they're well aware that Impunity are setting up for the pick-off, especially with Baron on the horizon. Now Spawn, Frank Esports trying to move over, not as a big group as YSCam goes first. Trying to get the range, Alex jumps on in. Gwen becomes immune for a split second as Alex wants to get on in. And we see an Arctic Assault that leads to a Glacial Prison, but it's not thrown out. Impunity have themselves the river. We are A-ramming, we are sitting here looking for who throws the most things out. And Crown is down yet again as Annex just keeps hitting these Ultra Shock Blazers. I guess we're just going to do this. You know what? Forget Sidewaves. Who cares?
Yeah.
Let's just sit mid.
Yeah. And currently Sidewaves are pushing in opposite directions, right? Top wave is pushing in towards Impunity, whereas on the flip side, Frank Esports, they have a bottom wave possibly try and deal with. But the main show is still around this Baron, because it's still 2 minutes until the Elder Dragon. They don't need to turn their attention over there. And as things stand, it's a mixed amount of control coming in when it comes to vision. But the numbers are there for Frank Esports to go ahead and clear it out.
But on a ward, this is a good ward by Frank. You can see around the Raptor camp. A great spot to spot out a Sejuani, a Rakan. Really good angles if the mid push goes any further. For Frank Esports, that ward now going to expire as I hover around it. But at least getting vision around the Baron for now, as Hollow's still not spotted out in the pixel brush. Buying time will be Elder in a minute 30, and that's going to be the priority for both teams. Baron means nothing in comparison. So for Frank Esports, either they pick their battle on top of the Baron right now, or they try and bait in Impunity as that ulti flies out from Alex, hoping that they have an advantage to lead towards the Elder. We're approaching 40 minutes, Nightstar, and yet again, we have not touched Sidewaves for like 4 minutes. No one cares. You know, you have TP, don't worry about it. Let's just play Howling Abyss.
Yeah, and this, of course, shows that a bit of inexperience coming in from Frank Esports. I don't really mind it from Impunity because, again, Apex not running the teleport, and you just want to try and force out a fight. If Annex ever lands a good Ultra Shock Laser, you just want to go on a dive with the ultimate coming in from Alex or the equalizer coming in from Apex to take advantage of the crown being popped. I feel like they need to be a little bit more just use the equalizer to carve out space after the crown gets popped, just to try and make a play.
Equalizer does come out, the Glacial Prison as well. That's double ulti with not much effect. Eminem is zoned out, however, and that could be okay.
They've reset the
His
fight.
ulti's still there. They get a route onto the jungler. He's igniting down, saved by Yusin. But Alex is now low in front of an Elder buff. Kings are going mid from Frank Esports, but they have no jungler.
Yeah, the situation resets. Alex is actually going to stick around. Teleport coming through. This is it.
Okay, this is it. I mean, Frank Esports to go to the next round, or Impunity for a game 5. YSCam's here in line to send out the ulti, but uses for the great ulti, flushes himself jackpot here too, but no one's on Eminem, and that's a free Aphelios fight. He runs into certain death though and gets out alive. It's a double kill.
They have no one else left.
YSKM. I don't know.
2v4.
They're dead. They're actually just dead. Pretender flashes. Okay. Well, Jackpot runs in. He's dead next.
Okay.
Now Eminem on the Elder.
50-50.
You know, it goes to the Rumble. Eminem still flashing against an Elder team. He's going to do Aphelios things. Everybody dead. A quadra kill. A fiesta of a game. Eminem just sits there alone.
Call him a rap god because he wraps that one up with 4 kills. And we go on. Hysterics, we go on.
Somehow, some way. Oh, Alex wasn't a champion. You know, Alex was not a champion. He had no HP. We'll look at this again because TP comes in. And Frank Esports a little bit far away from him.
Yeah, and YSCam goes in the back line, but he is going in by himself. Able to buy some time, and Yeah, unfortunately, too far ahead of his squad allows Annex to just kind of play front to back. But the big thing is, Pretender, Eminem, they are extremely fed, and unfortunately, Jackpot, he wants to double dash in to try and get the stun onto Eminem. Unfortunately, no damage or not enough durability there, and even though they are able to get themselves the Elder Dragon, they still all die because Eminem just gets the free hit.
And the replay, by the way, Baron was taken by Frank Esports. Elder is now off of impunity.
Yep.
Because, as you said, everybody died, so...
Full build starting the stream through.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right, put on your disco shoes.
This has to be the next... It has to be all over at the next fight. Sure.
No. I could see this going to 60 minutes. I could honestly see this going to 60 minutes because Frank, game 1 and 2 have been so clean. Game 3 looked clueless. Game 4, again, out of priorities. Eminem, clutch play, getting out of the way of the Glacial Prison. Is now against impunity, trying to use the Baron to get all the clear, but Annex is doing so much damage to these Baron minions. Maybe it'll be YSKM who's able to push in the base as the rest of impunity are coming in to jump on top of him. But it is a Gwen with needlework, blast cone taken. You just set everyone to deal with the Gwen.
At long last, Frank Esports starting to play multi-lanes once again. Now that there aren't any objectives up on the table, they are willing to spread themselves out, play a little bit more map-oriented. And impunity, they have to come to a decision soon. It's very possible we see, another double Uber fight here.
Double Uber?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, we've got the Uber objectives. 3 minutes until Elder comes up. I mean, surely we finish before it.
Ulti, Equalizer, okay, Pretender and Eminem. Meanwhile, how is Jackpot winning this? It is Gwen. Needlework probably missed quite a lot. Yep, second time as well. And YSKM's dead. He missed both parts. He got one Needlework. I don't know, dude. I've just seen bigger Gwens.
He's massive.
Oh, here we go. All right, 4 versus 5. 35 seconds left on Baron. The play stops there. The base was not broken. Impunity are just running down mid because there's no Gwen for 45 seconds.
Long death timers, any pickoff is extremely detrimental, so they're going to have to take this fight 4v5. They do have very fed carries, though.
But you've got an Azir, so pushing down mid going to be hard. TP was burned. Holo still with an angle, but not going to take it. And YSKM does have teleport for when he spawns back up. Nothing going to be available then at the very least, as impunity still have pressure through the mid lane. Bot lane there too. And we will just wait. Like I said, Nightstar, 50-minute game. That's what's coming our way.
We have the Knight's Vow completed by Alex. It's thrown onto Annex. And on the flip side, carries. He has the Anathema's chains thrown down onto the Zeri. So if Zeri does get caught out, it will cost her GA. Almost undoubtedly so, because of the extra CC duration. So that's something to keep track of. And it's a waiting game, 70 seconds until Elder respawns. Right after, that's Baron in 2 minutes.
Eminem has no boots, he's sold it. We have 6 item Aphelios. Boots still there from Annex, so a full item over right now for the 11 and 180 carry. YSKM has been the reliable one all split. He's been insane with some of his plays, even in game 1 and game 2. But this game, I ain't talking about the Gwen. Instead, I feel like Jackpot, even at this point, is so much more impactful as Annex hits the 2 hyper carries. Eminem and Apex, Pretender taking that much damage, and Impunity is just fast-tracking down the mid lane.
Yeah, and here's the problem with ditching your boots is that you're really, really strong in a fight. However, moving around the map, not going to be favorable for you. So Eminem, he has to have people just lined up around him to make sure he's escorted properly.
Okay, I thought Frank Esports would try and jump on. Eminem had ulti and grabbed him, but didn't want to throw it out. Frank Esports, you know, this is not an experienced organization.
Yep.
Even though these guys, you know, you look at people like Eminem, who's been around for ages, you want to see something big out of them as that TP is towards bot. All right, YSKM, make the play, do it the shot. As Impunity are running towards this Gwen, he's like, now do I go in, now do I not? Now do I go in because Impunity are in front of Elder. They're being split around. I was just arguing about experience, and this play is so chat. This is how they can end it as YSKM is channeling into the base. Observers take us in as Elder's being held. There's no flip opportunity, and the needlework is finally connecting. When it matters, YSKM takes one person out of the equation. And he starts walking down.
Let it reset. Yes.
By the time. All right, and look at where he is. As Jackpot moves in, YSKM is just going to go for the play, but Carries. Why did Carries engage? They've just given an avenue for a 5 versus 4, and Annex can move around. It all now relies on Pretender, apparently, who gets the big shuffle. Hollow gets the spin, and this Azir has just saved their lives. With Eminem as well. Frank Esports in this 43-kill game will be able to move on to the next round, but Impunity made them work for it in what was the craziest, silliest end of a series I have ever casted in my tenure of casting League of Legends.
Just gonna let it soak in. It was a messy affair in game number 4. And we questioned the poise, the leadership, the communication structure coming in from Frank Esports because it was a very, very grueling game. Especially after coming off of another 40-minute game in game 3, you had to question the mental. And then they came out with the seemingly veteran play. Play that bot lane wave, play around the Gwen, and Gwen finally, when it mattered most, won the 1v1, and it just pulled them across the map just enough to get that last Nexus.
Frank are going to have tougher opponents coming up. You know, this was a series of trial and tribulations. It was crazy. It was, I don't know. Nightstar is just a lot going on, and it's so back and forth, but it's so strange when you see a team perform so well in the first 2 games of the series, then it all goes the opposite end. And I feel like my tilt towards that series, my tilt towards those last 2 games, was the fact that we saw Frank play a composition that this time around was easy to execute. We saw like YSKM on a comfort champ, but thrown away by eating into the bush, going for the all-in when vision expires, and all it takes from the Renekton is be like, oh, well, I saw him coming. Sidestep up, and let's make it hard for him.
Yeah, the game really did get very, very difficult from that point on because they didn't get to leverage that top lane as well as they would have been able to. And, you know, this is one of those moments as a young team that it really can say a lot. If you are able to get past this, perhaps, you know, they do have some extra time going into next week. It's not like they play in 2 days like they did have to against CFO. Maybe that extra time to reset allows them to reset themselves and figure out what went wrong and then evolve to then challenge our top teams, because as it stands, this is not a team built for a 5-game series. It doesn't look like they have the stamina to get through it.
At the very least, I mean, you know, for Frank, it's like how it all comes together, how the early games play. We saw adaptations in this game of Hollow hovering topside, giving YSKM a safer lane, but YSKM didn't really have that big of a performance. And I feel like, you know, Pretender kind of made the game. Pretender feels like a really big part But the biggest thing is the coordination. Like, so many times we saw carries on the Nautilus going in when the rest of Frank weren't there, or a TP flank was being enacted, but it was too early. I think it just, as you said, shows Frank Esports in so many different regards are such a young roster.
Yep.
They need a lot of time. And apparently, with Wise Cam now in, a split wasn't enough. They still get the win, but you have to say, whoever joins them down in this lower bracket, I had them going further, Nightstar.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I'm going to stick to my guns.
Hysterics, you had them going further. I had them going the Worlds. I had them taking the championship. Man.
Yeah.
I feel like my hype train might be a little bit derailed after that. But, we still see strong carry performances coming in from these carries. It's just a matter of, do they have the mental stamina to get through it? That will be the real test. As they showed in this one, while they were able to claw at the very end, this was against our, I believe, 8th seed. So, not the best look.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But, I mean, I will, out of that, I will give credit to Impunity. I think the adaptations in draft we saw in Game 3 and Game 4, this Rumble, Renekton solo lane, giving priority in lanes, and especially since, Pretender wasn't a big deal in the laning phase in this series.
Yep.
Especially in Game 3 and Game 4. He had range matchups versus the Rumble. The Rumble was able to get through pretty unscathed, and it feels like Annex was, given a lot of windows here in this game too, right? So we saw that for Impunity, they found direction. They are out of the PCS, but hey, going out swinging in that fashion, is respectable considering we almost went to a 5-game series.
Yeah, it was definitely unreal. Because if we had score lines put down, I'm sure all 5 of us were just going to say 3-0 because, again, we didn't know what the form was coming in from Impunity. All we saw was just an endless rotation of players cycled in and out of the lineup. And Impunity, they definitely impressed. Apex especially should be looked at because he brought experience, he brought leadership, and he brought a diverse set of picks that the side of Frank Esports did struggle to deal with.
Pretender MVP though. Pretender MVP sounds about right. From Game 3 Oriana of doing next to nothing. Game 4 Azir doing mostly everything. It does feel like a great transition to the mid laner that I had put this player in my most improved. Because I feel like in spring we got a little bit of a dazzle of the Frank Esports mid laner. But I think in summer we've had a very adaptive, very cooperative with the rest of Frank Esports, at least in the first 2 games in the regular season. A very great returning mid laner that has a lot of potential. And I don't know, I'm pretty proud that Pretender's come this far.
Yes.
And let's hope that it goes a little bit further. But of course, it's 3-1 to Frank Esports, and we're going to send it over to an interview with Rirachu, who's standing by with the Frank Esports top laner YSK.
I'm taking my pain away, nothing else more to say. Everything that I have, I'll give. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you got a team and you're rolling with the pride. Wanna play the game, make it to the end. I'm gonna bring it back again. I feel it inside. I'm reaching my stride. I'm standing my ground. I won't give in. I'm moving ahead. I'm back from the dead. I'm ready to fight again. Raising the roof, raising the roof, raising the roof. I'm raising the roof. All the mistakes I made, now I can change my fate. No one can take this heart away. First, you gotta pick a side. Now you gotta day, find another way, find another way, fight another day. I feel it inside, I'm reaching my stride, I'm standing my ground, I won't give in.
Hello，欢迎来到三号采访，我是主持人 Leju。首先恭喜 FAK 拿下今天的比赛。Hey guys, I'm Ray Richard and welcome to the post-match winner interview. Today we have none other than Frank Esports top laner YSKM. Could you introduce yourself, please? 那今天终于邀请到了上路 YSKM 选手来到采访席，先跟大家打个招呼吧。
大家好，我是 FAK 的上路 YSKM。
So the first question I have to ask is about the end to that crazy game number 4. Whose call was it to simultaneously backdoor as well as start Elder Dragon at the end? Can you share with us what the team was thinking and also what comms were like? 那今天第一个问题就是想问关于第4局最后的那一波，你们同时是开打了远古巨龙，然后 YSKM 的那个 BD 是谁的 call？ 然后能够分享一下当时队友们的沟通还有思考吗？
就以前打训练赛的时候，可能出现过这个情况，然后那时候我看那个下路兵线挺多的，刚好我有 TP，我就跟队友说我想 TP 过去偷塔，然后他们叫我冷静一下，然后再思考，然后就自己踢过去了。
So he said that this is a type of situation that has happened in their scrims and in their practice before where there's a huge wave stacking over in the bottom side. So he noticed that that was what happened today as well. So he communicated to his team that he thinks that he could go and try and steal the tower at that point in time. And he said that because he also had TP, it was worth a shot. His teammates kind of told him to like, calm down, don't go all in on this. But that was what happened. So the next question I want to ask, is it hard to prepare against a team such as Impunity? Because pretty much every single game they're changing their starting roster a lot. Do the team also expect to see Husky today? 那接下来问题想问的就是要对上经常换阵容的 IMP 这种战队，对于 FAK 的赛前准备来说会带来很多困难吗？然后今天有没有想到要对上 Husky 选手呢？
今天我对上 IMP，其实我觉得本来挺轻松的，可是我们皮了一下，然后我其实没怕他们上路的，只不过他们一直来搞我而已。然后哈士奇的话，其实也挺想遇到，因为以前台服打 Perry 的时候一直遇到他嘛，他那时候也挺厉害的，现在也还好。
So, he said that with regards to today's games, he said they thought that it was going to be an easier series versus Impunity, but then they thought that they kind of played a bit fast and loose. They were a bit too naughty, and that was why it went to a 3-1, and that's why the games went longer. He says that the roster for Impunity doesn't really matter to him. What matters more is a bit that he feels that in most games, whoever is on the side of IMP, they just come over to the top lane and they're always trying to gank him with multiple people. As for Husky, he said that he's met Husky a lot on the Taiwan server, and so he plays versus him a lot. And Husky is also a very good player in solo queue. He wasn't really sure that he expected to see him today, but he thinks Husky is a good player. So the next question, YSKM, is about your ID because YSKM is short for You Should Know Me. Can you tell us why you picked this ID? 那接下来问题就是想问的就是关于 YSKM 选手的 ID， 相信观众朋友们也都已经知道 YSKM 的 ID 是 You Should Know Me， 然后大家也应该不需要我的翻译就已经知道这 ID 的意思是你应该认识我，所以想问一下，就是这 ID 的来源是什么呢？然后为什么会取这个 ID？
就以前听过首歌，它的歌词里面叫 “You 是什么什么的”，然后那时候我改 ID 就改个 “You should know me”，感觉比较屌，就听起来比较屌，然后大家都会认识我。可是那时候感觉给台服积分的人都感觉是一个屁孩，后来就变厉害了，对，然后大家都认识我了，
So he said that a really long time ago. He was listening to this one song, and the song had lyrics of like "you should something something" in it. So that was how he remembered the front part. And then when he had to change his ID for in the LOL server, and he was thinking of something to choose, he remembered the "you should" part, and he thought that like he wanted people to recognize him from his ID, and that's why he made the ID "you should know me." He said that he thinks that this ID kind of has BDE to it, and that's why he picked it. At the start, he said that the people that he met on the server thought that he was just like some kid who was like running his mouth off, but then later on, as he got better, now people really do know him. So I want to ask also about your Camille, because previously you had over 8,000 LP on the Korean solo queue ladder. I think you were like one of the top Camilles at one point. Do you have any tips on how to play Camille? 那 YS Camp 选手的卡米尔是曾经好像是达到韩服7分以上。然后你好像也是那时候第一卡米尔在韩服的时候，所以你有没有什么兑现的细节或技巧能够分享给大家吗？
兑现技巧的话，应该是那个 W 跟 E 的技能使用吧。然后连招的方式是，你先 Q 个兵，你要同时间按个 E 出去，然后按 W，就是 Q E W E Q 嘛，5个连招。那时候你要那个 W 要中，然后 E 要中就行了。然后打团的话就，你的 R 是可以把其他敌人分开的，然后就你要用的好，然后你要切后排。
So he thinks that the most useful tip he has for Camille in terms of laning phase is how you chain your W as well as E. He thinks that he thinks that you need to. This is very technical. 好细节，太细节了。He thinks that I think you need to, the important thing, you need to land your Q onto the minion, and you need to get into the minion wave like that. He thinks the combo for Camille is Q E W E Q, and that is the correct combo that you should be playing Honor. He thinks that in the team fights, what is important is you need to be able to get into the backline, and then you need to be able to split up the opposing members on the other team. There was something about the W and E. We'll go back and look at it later. But yeah, thank you for the tips. My next question, your team mentioned in an episode of Casters on Duty that the team's playstyle is League of Brothers. What does this mean to the team? Do you have any interesting gaming house stories to share, maybe? 那 FAK 在Caster 出任务第一季有说过你们的风格是兄弟联盟，可以跟大家分享一下，就是兄弟联盟对你们来说到底是怎样的呢？然后有没有什么有趣的基地故事可以跟我们说一下？
兄弟联盟的话，因为我以前跟中路 Pretender 就是五仔，是一个同一个业余队伍出来的，所以我跟他是兄弟本来就。然后后来来这个香港队伍，然后大家都变成兄弟了，然后大家玩的比较开，就很开，什么都不介意什么的，就一直骂队友，就一直骂，一直开心，一直骂，随便骂那种，就有趣吗？是挺有趣的了，就我输一波，他就一直骂我的。
这气氛对了，好。So he said that he's actually old friends and teammates with Pretender, their mid laner from Frank Esports, because the two of them previously used to play in an amateur tourney together. And then so this time around, now that he's joined Frank Esports, he feels that because all of his teammates are also from Hong Kong, it feels like they have that type of camaraderie going on. And then he said that it's very easy to play with his teammates because they're all just very easygoing. It's just like whatever happens. They're that type of players, and also they're very easy to when something goes wrong to just kind of blame each other, but in a fun sort of way. So he says when he makes a mistake, his teammates will really quickly jump on that and be like, what? You did something wrong, that sort of thing. And he just likes that type of atmosphere on the team. So in Friday's match, you and Rest both managed to solo queue each other. And in Rest's interview, he said that he would rate you an 8.7 out of 10. What are your thoughts on this? How would you rate him? 那周五 就对阵 Rest 选手的时候，互相都有发生过单杀对方的情况。前天 Rest 哥也是在采访中有说，如果满分是10分的话，他会给你8.7分。那 YSK 选手有什么感受呢？会怎么评价 Rest 哥？然后你会给他几分呢？
听说 PCS 有个克制的关系，可是
我也听说过，确
我
实。
我被 West counter，然后 West 被恐龙 counter，我 counter 恐龙吧，就有什么感想吗？就感觉他应该分数10分吧，怎么评价他是个打线很凶的选手吧，然后就这样吧。
So he thinks that Rest is a player who's very good at in the laning phase. He said that he's heard that in PCS there's this mysterious triangle going on where Rest loses to Hanabi, Hanabi loses to YSKM, and YSKM loses to Rest, and that's the triangle that they have. And yeah, he thinks that if he has to give Rest a score out of 10, he would give him the full mark of 10. So next week, you're going to face off versus either DCG or BYG. Which team would you rather face and why? 那下礼拜就有机会碰头 DCG 或是 BYG。个人比较偏向想遇到哪一支队伍呢？为什么？
我比较想遇到 BYG 吧，因为他们上路跟中路都是我朋友，然后上路是我一直以来都有就是对练的习惯的对象，然后还有一个原因是他是我儿子。
So he said that for sure he wants to meet BYG next week because he's very close friends with BYG's top laner as well as their mid laner. He says that just in terms of laning playstyle, he's very used to practicing and going up against the way that BYG's top laner plays. Also, he says that BYG's top laner is his son. So my next question, what is Frank Esports' goal for this summer as well as the future? 那 FAK 对于夏季赛以及未来的目标会是什么呢？
应该是前2吧，对，因为我们本来春季赛的排名本来就很低，我感觉夏季赛应该前2就足够了吧，就能出国就可以了。未来目标的话，就先打赢下礼拜再说吧。
So he said that their goal for summer is to come in the top 2. He said that in spring, Frank Esports placement and performance was pretty low. So he said that it's good enough for him if Frank Esports places top 2. What their goal is really just to make it to Worlds. It doesn't matter whether it's first or in second place. Yeah. The next question that I want to ask is, you've gained so much support over the summer split from not just PCS fans, but also your own stream. Some of the overseas fans have also given you the nickname of Hong Kong the Shy. So how do you feel about this nickname? Also, do you have any message for the fans? 那 YSK 选手在这次的夏季赛就不只是在 PCS 台，而且在自己的实况台，也都增了不少粉丝。然后海外的观众也有称呼过你，就是叫你香港的 Shy。然后 YSK 选手对于这种昵称有什么感受呢？然后有没有想跟观众说什么样的 message 吗？
其实我有个话想说，就是大家来看我实况，其实不是看我操作的，来看我的样子，然后还打那些假文，我就感觉很奇怪。我看有实况是操作的，可是说一下了，没事。然后香港的帅嘛，其实挺开心的，因为我本来的偶像也是的帅，就大家来看的话，尽量是来看操作的吧，谢谢。
So he said that there's actually one thing that he wants to make clear, and there's something he wants to say to everyone, which is that when he started streaming on his own channel, his purpose was that he wanted to show off his mechanics to the fans and to the audience. However, he started to realize that people actually watch his stream not for mechanics, but kind of for his looks. And then people are always leaving comments in his chat about fan fiction between the players, and so he feels that this is a bit strange and he would rather people go to his stream and watch for the mechanics instead. So as for the comparison with the Shy, he thinks that he's actually very happy about this because the Shy has always been one of his idols personally, so he's happy about this comparison and this nickname. So the last question that I have for you is, when are you planning on getting a haircut? How do you see the map with that type of hair? 那最后一个问题当然就是想问，到底什么时候剪头发呢？
怎么又是这个问题了？我想一下，可能10月吧，打完再说吧。现在是0吧，现在是0 ，OK 0。
He said that the chances of him cutting his haircut right now are 0. He said that they're going to just, play through the rest of playoffs before he thinks about this. He says maybe in October he'll consider getting a haircut. All right, thank you so much, YSKM, for the interview. And of course, good luck next week. 好的，那非常感谢于16米选手接受今天的赛后采访。当然要祝 FAK 在下周的比赛加油，拜拜。
谢谢 ，Thank you。
Thank you.
Thank you for the interview and welcome back, folks. All I know is that YSCam, for some reason, is a very looked at streamer because he gets a lot of fans. A lot of fans obviously go in there and say, well, whatever he was alluding to there, but at the very least, Nightstar. Good to hear from the top laner of the team. And he said today they're mucking about a bit. He said in Game 3 and Game 4, they played it really loose. And I couldn't agree more, It wasn't great gameplay from their perspective, I'm sure from ours as well. But, hey, they got the win. It's a 3-1. And now they just got to wait and see who loses to match them down in the lower bracket.
Yeah, it's certainly a learning experience in that regard for the side of FAK Esports. And hopefully they take a lot out of it, because if these games do go to 40-some minutes against our better teams, that is where they are going to run into trouble. So we get to see the updated bracket. It is FAK Esports, of course, advancing in the 3-1 fashion. And thankfully, at least in this playoffs, we've only seen one 3-0, whereas last split, it was pretty much 3-0s all across the board.
I mean, I thought this was going to be a 3-0. I mean, this looked like a 3-0 at the start of today because of how Frank came into the series. But Impunity, as we said, really made them work for it. So, it feels like we are... It feels like at this point, we're kind of wondering how FAK Esports get any further. But to be fair, that was just one series. Things could change as they play again in a week's time, just about 6 days from now. So FAK Esports have a long time to work on it, while Nightstar, speaking of a break, we're actually not back until the 25th. It's going to be a little while. So we do get a bit of a break ourselves. I think you and I are actually doing DCG and Beyond Gaming as well. And we get to go back up to the top side of the bracket. Because for now, we sit with FAK Esports and J-Team down on the bottom side, and we get to go back up to see who will be going through to the semifinals.
Yeah, and what's exciting is, of course, that upper bracket matchups, because that puts them in top 3 position. And it's top 2 that do go to Worlds, and if you are in that top 3 spot, it means you essentially have 2 opportunities to make it to Worlds. You win that winners final, or you drop down into losers lower bracket final and win there to make it into your Worlds passport.
That's right. I mean, look, getting to Worlds, 2 seeds available, it's a big deal. It's a big deal considering I don't know if we're going to have the same contenders that we had last year around. No Beyond, no PSG, right? It does feel like this could be the year of any team like DCG, a CFO have a good chance as well. Hell, if J-Team make a run in the lower bracket, we never know. But look, at the very least, Nightstar, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you for dealing with me, my tiltedness for the period of Game 3 and 4. That was
prime
something.
Time hysterics, baby.
Hey, something like that. I'm not sure if we can say it, but hey, at the very least, thank you to everyone out there for dealing with it too. It is bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you in a couple days' time when the PCS returns with the upper bracket.